thing, my brother. All right. Islam, everyone. Islam. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Brooklyn. Thank you for having me. Oh, wow. There's so many beautiful faces. Thank you guys for coming through, inshallah. Again, thank you guys for all the support. Let's give it up for Brother Rich. Definitely for doing his thing. Wow. Wow. It's so great to see y'all. Before I get into it, I just wanted to do a little... One second. Islam, I don't know if y'all know, we got hip-hop royalty right here. This is the ultimate, ultra-magnetic brother Cedric L. Ced G, holding us down. Islam. Love and light to everybody. Real quick before I get into, what I want to present to everybody, I just wanted to give honorable mention to some of our giants, lords, lordesses, emperor, empresses that's not on the physical plane anymore. Again, honors to Brother Steve Coakley, Brother Khalid Muhammad, Dr. Felder, Francis Cress Wilson, the magnificent Prince Uriel Bey, Dr. Delbert Blair, Dr. Sabi, Myra Shira Eel, who else? My dad, bless the dead. Anyone who is present that lost someone, well, they didn't lose someone, that their ancestor, whoever transcended, I want to give that respect and love to you. C. Freeman L. Islam. Name another one. Who else? Anybody got another one? If you got another one, let me know. Francis Cress Wilson, definitely said her. Dr. Sabi, Myra Shira Eel. Who else? Steve Coakley said him. Bobby, well, Bobby's still here. Ivan Van Sertima, Islam. Golden Age of the Moor, that's very important. Honorable mentions, though, to, who else we got? Honorable mention goes to, again, Brother Big Man. I don't know anybody remember Brother Big Man. Brother Big Man, Brother Bobby Hemmett, Brother Daoud, who else? Brother Shabazz, Hakeem Bey, Jose Pimenta Bey, Sister Rashida Bey, Sister Valeria Bey. So again, I like to open it up because I am only here based upon all the great ones that came before me. So I don't ever want it to make it seem like this. We should never turn this into some sort of cult of personality and start to pick who knowledge is better than this one. That's not the kind of community that I came from. I came from the community that everybody in the diaspora had a way to express themselves and was able to be in a position for us to be able to exchange ideas without castigating each other and throwing each other under the bus. So the only thing that we got is each other, whether we realize it or not, whether we want to accept it or not. So I just want to always create a situation, an air of peace. Just let you know, Islam Noble. Also, honors and praise to Marcus Mosaic Garvey, as well as the Honorable Prophet Noble Jew Ali. Two people who changed my life drastically, who I didn't even know. But all of our ancestors, all of our people, they leave us something. And when we get into things like metaphysics or start to talk about things like metaphysics, I think one of the things that we tend to do, even within ourselves, is we start to get into something in some sort of modality of thought, and we get so deep into it that we almost get to ourselves and be like, nah, I ain't gonna talk about it. That ain't good. This ain't real. You know what I mean? This isn't gonna work. Am I just looking at it like this? Is everybody else seeing it like this? The problem is we are always taught to second guess ourselves and put ourselves in a secondary position because we live in a parasitic society. It's not parasitic because we are parasites. It's parasitic because we live amongst a group or groups of people who do not have the modality of creation. When we speak of creation, we tend to speak of things that are manifest. But everything that is manifest on the physical manifests somewhere in the non-physical. Yet we place so much emphasis on how we appear physically that we tend to overlook the fact that everything that we see around us started from something that was unseen. Yet even when it was unseen, it is seen. How can we say that? If everybody was to close their eyes right now, right? Close your eyes right now. Right? What do you see? What do y'all see? Exactly. Okay. So once we opened our eyes, where'd that blackness go? It's right here with y'all. It's manifested as flesh. And because we don't understand that, or we sometimes don't give a greater precedence to what we can contribute, right, as an individuum, not an individual, an individuum, which is Latin for the proper personification of self. When we speak of the individual, we're talking about how that is expressed through everybody else. But we can't be everybody else until we start with who we are. Therefore, what we call the arm, leg, arm, head, what some people call the physical body, is really just the manifestation of the vessel that we created somewhere else. We're actually somewhere else projecting what we would look like if we was physical on this plane right now. So when you start to gain consciousness and you start to raise your vibration, what begins to happen right away, I don't know if this happened to y'all, but it happens to me, people start stepping away from you. You notice that? People start getting to a point where when you come around, it's a bunch of talking. And then as soon as you come through, everybody stop talking. That ever happen? That happens to me all the time. So what I'm saying is, the question is, what are they talking about? Right. But when they say they're talking about you, who you are they talking about? The you that they are perceiving, the you that is evolving, the you that is becoming. You understand? There's what they call a threefold, in the so-called occult realm, there's what they call the threefold consciousness, or what they refer to as the photos of God. And what that means is that what we understand as consciousness is an ever-present, ever-growing thing that existed before what we could perceive as thinking. One day I was at a speaking engagement, and there was an atheist there, a so-called black atheist, whatever that is. So he came, and he basically said, well, God don't exist. And so I said, well, maybe he don't for you, or maybe it don't for you. I don't even like to put it in, a lot of times in the context of a he or a she. That, again, is a divisive, materialistic, earthbound demiurge, which we'll get into in a minute, that keeps you from looking at the commonality that binds us all together. And so when he said that God don't exist, I said, well, maybe it doesn't for you. And he said, well, how could you prove that it exists? I said, well, how could you prove that you think? I said, prove a thought. Show me what your thought is. Can you do that? And then he said, well, no. Then I said, well, you should rethink that God thing, because everything else is starting to corrupt your brain. Because what has happened is that we've gotten to the point where we are starting to believe what the oppressor has been telling us. We are actually starting to believe it. You have black people, so-called black people. You have them actually believing. Think about what I'm saying. They actually believe the worst of themselves and the best of the person who has oppressed them. But when we say oppression, we're talking about a perception of control that only exists based upon the lack of knowledge of yourself. You're only in this position because you can't properly articulate how you got into the position. So what has happened is that the universal mind, whatever you want to call it, has actually to correct itself. That's one thing. In scientific journals and stuff, they talk about the self-corrective mind. And the self-corrective mind is the mind that whenever it sees something in balance, it is working to correct itself. and for some reason it spirals in an octave to the right. So when we look in the universe and the constellation of planets and all this other stuff, everything is moving in a symmetry, spiraling closer to the right for whatever reason. What that means is we have manifested entities in our community, right, to investigate how we got into this position. Y'all have done this. You understand? Y'all have been so inundated with BS from the society that collectively something manifested between the late 70s, mid 80s, and then bloomed in the 90s that became what we are calling today the conscious community. Meaning that the people actually manifested people like myself to come and bring you back the information that you may not could go out and get yourself because you got to work every day, because you got children, because you got to deal with this cracker on your back, because you got to deal with all of this stuff. So it is not my position to assume that what I'm talking to you about, you don't know. All I am here to do is to help you remember what was dismembered in the process of us coming into the physical world, excuse me. And so each one of us represent an aspect of that consciousness that allows us all to get a different aspect. So I could never be Phil Valentine. You understand? But he could never be me. I could never be Bobby Hemmett. But he could never be me. But we can be together to show the consistency to the people that not all of us is caught up in divisiveness. Not all of us is going to bow down to the base nature of ourselves. Not all of us is going to get in a situation where we are quick to believe somebody else instead of our brother. So we all have to get, and sister, we have to get to a position where we start to get rid of all the distractions. What's a distraction? Say again. Name them. People, social media. What else? Entertainment, Trump, right? What else? Huh? Ego. There it is. The biggest distraction in the physical world is your ego. Because your ego is only dominant in the physical world. But the physical world is but a grain of sand in the beach of eternity. And all of us, right, have the ability to go to that beach, lay out, bask in the sun, go in the water, and do all of that. But what these people are creating is a homogenized system. And when I say these people, I'm not even talking about the crackers here. I'm not even getting to them. We got to deal with us. The problem is we give them way too much power. I got tired of going to lectures or going to watching DVDs and stuff like that. And the lecturer is just giving me so much information about how this cracker is beating me up that after the end, it was just like I felt pummeled. Like I just felt like, oh, well, there's no hope. That's it. Crackers got it all. They got the harp. They got the weather. They got the disease. They got the GMO, right? What else they got? They got the prostitution. They got the pedophilia. They got it all. What are you going to do? What are we going to do? How are we going to stop that? How are we going to get into a position to allow ourselves the freedom just to ponder something? When is the last time you ever sat down and pondered reality? Right. Without having to, once you pondering it, get up and go to the bathroom, or answer the phone, or get the text, or make for work, or whatever. I mean, just literally sitting down somewhere, not doing nothing, and just pondering where you want to see your life to be. How many people have done that? That's great. All of us need to be doing that at least once a day, whether it be at the end of the day or the beginning of the day. Only because whenever you see images of people like the Pope or these type of those people, you'll see the Pope just in the garden, just walking around, or whatever, and then somebody run up to him and tell him something, and then he bounce, and then they bounce, and somebody else comes to him. That's because what they have done is, because they are not a part of physical reality the way we are, they had to inject themselves in that. Once they injected themselves in that, they had to become the physical archetype of what we are naturally. So the Garden of Eden, right, is really our physical body, which is also the temple of God, or the temple of the Most High, right? But the temple exists within the two hemispheres of the side of your face, right? But the physical temple that we call the physical world now has gone through such a drastic shift and change that we are not in the same octave that we were prior to maybe a year, maybe like the brother was saying, like maybe 2 years ago, we shifted into what they were referring to as the fourth dimension. You can verify this through, peace brother, you can verify this through so-called NASA, but they're not calling it a phase through the next dimension. They're referring to it as quantum entanglement. There are quantum entanglements. There are quantum redundancies. There are quantum realities. But anything that exists in quantum space, right, it can only exist. Anything that's in a quantum space can only exist in a positive space. So in a fourth dimension or in a quantum reality, only things that are real, meaning based on truth, can exist. So you see why they're trying to keep you low. You see why they're trying to keep you earthbound. You see why every record is about bringing you down to the floor. Because the higher you get in consciousness, the lower they get. The closer you get to the eternity that is waiting for us, the farther back in the annals of history they're going to go. The closer to the throne you get, the closer to the cave they get. You understand what I'm saying? It has nothing to do with you even being melanated. That's what the other G that they gave us. People say, I want to keep it moving because I know we got time or whatever, and I got a presentation, but I'm also going to move it on. Now, as you can see at the very top, right? The very, very top, what is that? That is the brain, the cerebellum, right? In the middle of that, what's that? That's the eye of Heru, right? On the other side of that is the brain. So now ask yourself this. How did your ancestors know what the inside of the brain was enough for them to create an amulet to wear on the outside of the body for protection? It says that Allah is closer to you than your jugular vein. But when we say Allah, again, we have to get out of the religious aspect of that. Now, I'm not trying to disrespect anybody that is Muslim. That's not what I'm saying. That is your choice as a human being to engage in a form of worship if that's what you choose to do. All I'm saying is don't throw the baby out with the bathwater and don't create a situation where you become a blind follower because man becomes the food for the divinity he worships. You understand? Whatever you are worshiping is feeding on you. So like me, I happen to be a Moor. Politically a Moorish American, right? Noble Jew Ali is the founder, the divine ruler. But I do not worship Noble Jew Ali. Do you understand? There was never anything that I read that said that I was supposed to worship this person. What he did say was imitate me. What he did say was speak to those who know law. And if you speak in a mild-mannered tone, you will always receive a favorable reply. He also said, the European is your fellow man. You should always treat him nice. Now, if you don't know what the word fellow mean, if you don't know what the word nice mean, then you're going to think that he talking to you to basically be step and fetch it with them, right? No. He said the European is your fellow man. When you look up fellow in the old Oxford Dictionary prior to 1830, it says a fellow is basically something that is dead, a corporation. And then he said you must always treat him nice. Nice in that same dictionary means stupid. Think I'm lying? Look it up. So when they say, so now look at this, how many times has somebody said to you in your life, oh, that's nice. Oh, you look nice. Oh, you feel nice. Oh, that's nice. They calling you stupid. But that's how stupid we all are. You understand? Because none of us is above reproach. None of us is to the point where we don't have to learn nothing else. So when I started to ponder the whole science of how these people did that, I said, well, maybe there was a way that they had an internal meditation where they could go within and see within themselves. So I said, well, that Islam, Supernova Islam. It's my God, brother. I ain't seen him in a long time. Islam. Thanks for coming, King. What I started to understand was that everything that manifests as a physical reality comes from an alternate reality, something that is non-physical. There's nothing that you have done that hasn't come from a thought first. Therefore, thought comes first. But then what is thought? Thought itself is the manifestation of what we perceive as the higher self, which what some people call God, some people call Allah, some people call Jehovah, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to get into all of that. Because again, we're beyond the stages of trying to be converted to something. Okay? We all should be to a point now where we should be clearly open to understanding that we still have a lot to understand. And this is what I mean about ego. Ego has it to the point that it is there for your physical preservation. Everything that is physical has an ego. If you have a fly and you try to swat the fly, when the fly moves, that's the ego telling the fly to move. Because it's there for self-preservation. It's there to hold you down and give you a sense of the present dangers that may exist around you. But what has happened in the so-called European world that, again, is based on ego, and when I say European, I'm not even talking about Caucasian people, because them people that they call in European only started to be called European after the 1800s. When we talk about the Europeans that came over here back in the days or whatever, stop giving credit to these crackers. It was not them. They were brought over here by people who looked just like you, who was enslaving them. The same way they try to enslave us. And what they did was left them people there to run the store, and they went back home, and then the people running the store started to get us to start to pay into their store. And then the next thing you know, Negro, black, colored, here you go. But what are those? Those are labels based on ego. It was about reducing the self to the point where you would not even know how to preserve yourself, not even know how to protect yourself. All of the science, all of the stories you done read and heard about lynchings and all of that. How come you don't never hear stories about the people that went after the crackers and lynched them? Y'all don't hear them stories, right? The only one they tell you is who? Nat Turner, right? They give you a movie, Birth of a Nation, and they show you the whole movie you getting beat up, and then right at the end, you now gonna fight back when the movie over. That's an allegory for your life. That's how they see you. They see you as being perpetually put into a situation of constant regression, of constant apathy, of constant deprivation. So that way they don't have to oppress you. You oppress yourself. We oppress ourselves metaphysically every day. Every time that you are talking to somebody and somebody says something that goes against your basic sensibilities and you don't say nothing, you have put yourself under that person's jurisdiction. You have to understand, saying yes to one instance of evil is saying yes to it all. The ancestors don't make a delineation. Oh, he only into Moors, so everybody that call themselves Africans, they not gonna look out for him on the astral plane. They don't do that. If you leave a bowl of fruit out for them in the altar, they coming through. They don't give a damn what color you are. You understand? I had a situation, again, speaking metaphysically, I had a situation where I had what's called a grand altar in my house. And I had it all on there. I had the pictures of space. I had the ancestors. I had the statues. I had the oils, the lotions. I had it all. You understand? To the point took up the whole wall, right? And one day, something happened, and it wasn't what I thought was going to happen based upon all the energy I put into this altar. And after that, other things started happening to unravel certain things that I was trying to make happen. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, well, what is wrong? Like, what is happening? I'm giving the fruit, I'm giving it this, I'm giving it that, right? And then it got to a point where something really bad happened. And now it kind of shook, like, my faith a little bit, because it was tied to the conscious community. Somebody was really cool or whatever, turned out, really said some wild stuff about me that was not true or whatever, and it was almost violent. You understand? This is a person I fed in my house. You understand? This is a person who was really cool with me, long story short. So then one day, after all of that went down, I squashed it. We settled it on Superhero Radio. I called in all of the ancestors on it, explained the whole thing, and for those people that remember, ain't never been nothing from that since Islam. But right before that, I went and I was sitting in front of the altar, and I started to get mad. Not mad at the fact that nothing was manifesting, mad at the fact of the energy that I was giving to so much of the unseen world and not feeling like I was receiving the return. That's the ego. You see what I'm saying? But then I realized it at the same time, but wait. All of these things that I'm giving is a manifestation of me. These Aseer and Aset and Anubis and Zarabanda, all of these things are really just manifestations of me. You understand what I'm saying? If we always existed, and we exist in the mind of what we perceive to be the ultimate creator or whatever, that means how you know we're not in that Big Bang creation thought right now? How you know you're not in it? You can't even measure how that thought works. So then I realized, well, if that's the case, and if these manifestations are all manifestations of me, and I'm giving them all the energy, you understand? Then what is happening, I'm not feeling a reciprocation. And then something said to me, well, maybe that's because you on that level already. Maybe we are our ancestors' return. And if so, what you're doing to some degree, and I'm only talking about me. Don't, we take things personal. I'm only talking about me. To some degree, it may be somewhat masturbatorial to constantly give energy to something that is really coming from yourself. So I said, you know what? I've been doing all of this time, burning these incense, burning these candles, all that. You know what? I'm taking all of this down. I took it all down. Took it all down. You know what? The candles, the this, the that, put it in the box, put it away. None of this stuff is going, I'm not going to put it back up until I see something manifest from it. You know what happened? Stuff started manifesting from it. The next day, I got a call with somebody. They wanted me to come out to do a speaking engagement, and it was awesome. You know what I'm saying? The next day. So that's when I realized, well, we are our ancestors manifesting every day through us. That's why we can, you notice nowadays on the memes, they'll show you like a picture of Wesley Snipes, and they'll show you like an old ancient dude from back in the day look exactly like him. That didn't exist before us. We brought that into consciousness. Right through this. Because, what does it say? The photo micrograph shows the X chromosome at the left alongside the shrunken Y chromosome, blah, blah, blah. Scientists say an African-American male's odd genetic signature suggests that the human Y chromosome's lineage goes back further in time than they thought. Perhaps due to the interbreeding with other populations such as Neanderthals. You melanated people are the only people that are not Neanderthal genetically based. And that's why they don't like you. You understand what I'm saying? You are what they refer to as a first round human in certain circles. You are what is called the Praetor human, what people like Crowley and them refer to as the Praetor human. Praetor. This is where you get the Roman word Praetorian from. And you know the Praetorians were the guys in Gladiator with Russell Crowe and all that. Again, the Moors, the ones with the big helmets. The ones that have the helmets with the top, like the Roman, when you see Caesar on them. You'll find the same Roman headdress on the high priest in Tibet. How'd that happen? Look it up. Because you have the same people taking one culture because they are one haplogroup and spreading that all over the world simultaneously. Because remember, you was here when the world was one landmass. You was here before there was a sun. You was here before there was what we perceive as night and day. But we have been so inundated with European history that we don't understand that our history exists in the mind. Your ancestors left the stones for you right now. We could leave right here and I could take you to Prospect Park and show you the pyramid. That's in the park. But the white man call it a hill. And you believe it. You understand what I'm saying? You believe it. Why? Because this really upsets a lot of ideas, but at the same time, it's understandable if we aspect populations were structured in the past so that they were little pockets of diversity. So if there were little pockets of diversity, that means then that everybody was what? No, listen guys, what I'm saying. Look, they're saying that the Neanderthals population, that happened with the interbreeding, right? But it says, boom, boom, boom. If we accept that human populations were structured in the past so that there were little pockets of diversity, we were separated. We did not live with the cave people. Do you understand? We didn't do that. That's why when they say there were little pockets of diversity, what that means is that everybody on the planet was one people. And that the only other people that existed were these things that basically manifested out of what they want to perceive or call evolution. But evolution was a concept that was proven fallible, because that was what they needed to create what they perceive or what we perceive as Western civilization. Because Western civilization is about the reconstruction of the melanated mind and creating an apathetic nature among the masses that's melanated to create a perpetual slave culture. The study focuses on the analysis of DNA sample obtained from an African American living in Ware, South Carolina, and submitted to the Genographic Project. The National Geographic effort aimed at mapping the human origins of migration. The funny thing about the sample is that it did not match up with any previously known genetic signatures for the Y chromosome, which is passed down from who? From the father to the son. So what does that mean? That means that the DNA that this person had from South Carolina was actually a type of DNA that was unique among all the other so-called races' DNA. That it was specifically a patrilineal energy that was passed from the father to the son. So how do we stop that? We get rid of the father. You understand? It's simple. It's like A plus B equals C. Let's go on further. Where it says, yes, nobody expected to find anything like this. See the cracker always talking about what he don't expect. The team led by Fernando Mendez. Now that's a ritual right there. Anybody ever heard of the Mendez or the Mendes goat? Those that's into that Freemason stuff and all of that? Riding that goat Roger? So this dude Mendes is the manifestation of that. You understand? As a researcher in Hammer's lab, analyzed more than 240,000 DNA base pairs on the African American's Y chromosome. The comparison of the differences between the mystery genetic signature and the previously known signatures led the team to conclude that the most recent common ancestor for the entire group lived about 338,000 years ago. This is a regular brother from South Carolina, man. This ain't Lucy, right? They call it Islam. This ain't Lucy The so-called monkey woman that they got everybody thinking everybody came from this monkey? No, that's not how it went down. That's not how it happened, man. When you understand, they said within that, 240,000. So that goes to 338,000 years ago. So that means that they can trace the lineage back from father to son 38, say that again? 338,000 years into the remote past. And you say that you don't know who you are? How can you not? How can you not know who you are when they can't even? So that means then that the genetics of humanity, us, humanity, Humanity, we are the basis of what human thought, creation, love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, and equality is. Manifest, right? Let's go further. The fossil record speaks to 195,000 years or 200,000 years, he said. It also goes further back than the previous date for the most recent common ancestor based on Y chromosome analysis, which is in the range of 142,000 years. So look at that. We got 338,000, 240,000, 195,000, 200,000, 142,000. So add all that up. I mean, you got to do it now, but I'm saying you can add it up, and the number you get, when you add that up, thank you, Mo. When you add that up, hit that by 7, and then times that by 7, and then times that by 7, and you will get to the point of where you are, or who we are. So you mean to tell me that these people know this, but they don't know that you are direct descendant from that? When these people just went to some brother that was just out there in South Carolina and say, hey, come and take this genetic test. So ask yourself this. If you have been here, let's say for over, I'm gonna take it back and say that we've been here, let's say for 1 million years. Let's say that, right? How then is people on Ancestry.com giving you a breakdown of who you are when they don't even have the DNA equipment to do that? How many people know why I stopped telling people to deal with 23andMe and all of that? Was because something happened a little while ago. I got it. Also, if you notice on a lot of interviews and stuff now, I don't give the names of books and stuff like that. You know, I do that for the individual classes and stuff like that. Because I got tired of making these people money. I would talk about books, and then people would hit me up trying to get the books. The books is now went from like $10, now the book like $2,000. This word bond. I went and talked about this book that was done by a dude named Ogilvy that basically gets into America, right? Because I had little pages I was able to glean from it back in the days. Do you know that they selling that book for $500,000 now? Yeah, I'm going to put it on. Hold it. Sorry, y'all. So, all of that is to say, the results are more consistent with the integration of the odd lineage. The odd lineage. Hammer told NBC, and it's funny, it's NBC, like Negro back colored. NBC News, over the past few years, scientists have been coming around to the view that such interbreeding did take place early in the history of our species. The recent analysis of Neanderthal and Denisovian DNA, where am I at? Has indicated, there you go, read it. Y'all can read it. Class participation, let's do it. I don't got my glasses, so. So, long story short, y'all, what I'm trying to say is she said one of the biggest debates in the study of human genetics has to do with how much time mutation rates with time scales, and she expects that this study to add for the debate. The example might continue to argue that the most recent common ancestor lived more recently than 338 years and will still be the oldest Y chromosome heritage that we have, but I can foresee some people might disagree with this specific age. Of course they will, because anything that puts you in an ancient antiqual space that is outside the context of a perpetual slave class is a problem for them. You understand? So what that means then is that we, so-called black people, so-called melanated people, whatever you want to call carbon-based people, let's say that. We as carbon-based people are the proto-human, meaning that we are the pre-human. When they talk about the pre-Adamite and all of this, you got to understand, the physical size we are right now is the basis, but at one point, we was the size of these buildings. We was even taller than that. One occult book that I read by, what was this guy's name? One of John Dee's books. Anybody don't know who John Dee is? John Dee was the sorcerer employed by Queen Elizabeth during the reign of the Moroccan dynasty around that time. And he was the one, his code name was 007, if y'all didn't know. And he was the one that basically was the first creator of what they now today call statecraft. Everybody know what statecraft is, right? Anytime you put craft in something, you're dealing with tricks. So if it's witchcraft, statecraft, whatever craft, they crafting it. You know what I'm saying? Meaning that they switching it up on you. So in that, John Dee found that he was able to take some of the mysticism that he was learning from the Moors, right? From places like Salamanca, places like Malaga, places like over here, what they now today call Arizona, the Grand Canyon, all them places. We did not have a delineation point, imaginary boundary lines, or wherever we was going to be at, you knew we was at because it was either a mound, a pyramid, or something like that. So we would go this way, and the pyramids was pyramidion, like, oh, that's where these Moors live. And then we would go see the mounds like that. Oh, that's where those Moors live. You understand? So we all understood that. We also use those things like airports. We would do circle what they have in the old Pelagian dynasty that they refer to now as the Byzantine dynasty, used to have what they call Byzantine conduits. If you ever seen the movie Hellboy, the first one, there's a scene where they are in the forest, or in the Alps or whatever in the thing, and they find the thing. They come into this maze place, and then they kill the guy, and then his blood goes all around in the conduit, and then from there in the middle, the dude who he was playing, Rasputin, then comes out physically made. That's what's called transconfiguration, when you can actually duplicate your consciousness from a clot of blood. That's what it says in the Quran, right? It says that man was created from the clot, right? Because the clot, the blood, is the manifestation of what they call the sanguine. The sanguine, or the sangriel, is the song of the real, or what they call the song of Israel, meaning the eternal creation song that is inside of all of us that we hear. That's that voice. That's that little thing in you that's always urging you to the right. You see what I'm saying? Always urging you to do better. But sometimes we get to a stage where we got to mute that voice because, as they say, I'm going to come to God on Sunday, but right now I got to get this money. You know what I'm saying? And that's the mentality a lot of us have, because we get so bogged down in believing that these things are real. This physical thing is real. These taxes are real. This mortgage is real. You understand? This trial is real. And it's not. It's not. It's real because we give it reality, which is why they call it Israel or Israel. When they talk about the lost tribes of Israel and all that, and you have this whole debate now with the Hebrews and stuff like that, how does any of that interplay with what we just learned by facts, by genetic facts? Because the Hebrew people that they talk about existed in the time that all of this energy and genetic power existed, right? So in that, when we speak of each other in different sects or different regions, right, we tend to deal in tribalism and clanism. That's just how we are as a people. That's how we manifested it. When I speak of the Moorish Empire, I'm not speaking of like it was one Moor and then this Moor told all other Moors what to do. That's not how it worked. how it worked was we all had dynasties, kingdoms, dominions, and empires. That's what you come from. So whether you call yourself a Moor or not makes no difference, because at the time that Selassie and these people, or the ancient Ethiopians, or the ancient Etruscans, or the ancient Carthaginians, or the ancient Phoenicians, or the ancient Elamites, or the ancient Moabites, I'm talking about the same people. I'm not talking about no Caucasian people. So I got to be talking about us, because we was the only people there. So if there was problems with each other, we had problems with each other. So when it came down to it, what started to happen was that there was a group of us, regardless of what you want to say, there's always going to be an aspect of our populace that's just going to be disagreeable. That's just who they are. Indeed. We call them that because some of them get to that level where they start really selling out. But then you just got some that don't even know, or even worse, the ones that's just, you ever know somebody that as soon as you say, I'm getting ready to do something, oh, nigga, you ain't going to do that. That's it. That's it. That's it. That person, back in the ancient times, would be referred to as Hibidu. Why? Because he is crossed over. Hebrew means to cross over, or to be crossed. Look it up. Look it up. Why you think they was lost? Think about what I'm saying. And I'm not trying to diss Hebrews. That's not what I'm doing. Because most Hebrews today is actually Christians. I don't know how they're doing that, but whatever. But what I'm saying is, they were disagreeable. And there's always going to be a section of our people that's disagreeable with the rest of the populace. That's just how it always is. And this is before the so-called white man came on the scene. You understand? These people were so disagreeable that the rest of us started to basically marginalize them. Didn't it say that in the stories that you read about the Hebrews, that they lived in where? They lived in Egypt, right? Amongst the Egyptians. But they was a different class, right? And then they got to the point where they caught a lot of trouble, and then they bounced. And they allegedly wandered for 40 years going to a place that took 4 days to get to. Read the Bible, that's what it say. Said that they dwelled in the land of Midian. And then before the land of Midian today will be what they Moors refer to as Havilah, what the Romans call Felix, Arabia Felix, what we today call Arabia, or the Middle East. And then from there, what happened? They went to another kingdom that was already popping. We already had our stuff right, the Canaanites. Remember them? But what we don't understand in terms of the historical context is that what we perceive as the Canaanites or the ancient Phoenicians or the Carthaginians, these are the pre-dynastic Egyptians. Islam, and they still that, because they were from where? Tamaray, right? So why are we creating these imaginary boundaries in our minds for people that we allegedly claim to be from? Thank you. You see what I'm saying, Moors? So peep this. Scientifically, the black woman is the only organism that possesses the mitochondrial DNA that has the variations possible for every different kind of human being on this earth. African, albino, the European, the Middle Eastern. When the DNA of the black woman mutates, all other types of human beings come about. You can research this topic, is true, because it's called the Eve gene. So think about that. Think about what that means for you, let's say as a female, right, of the feminine nature. With that much power, with that much creative power in you, it's not a wonder you haven't killed all of us. Real talk. Real talk, man. Could you imagine as a man? Imagine you as a man being able to actually physically create something. You do, we do. But I mean actually on some, carrying the baby. You can't even think about that because that's so outside of our nature that it's foreign to me to even try to equate that. But for the Neanderthal, it's no problem. He done made movies about it, Junior, right? They cloning you. They got all types of stuff because they not based on that. Their genetics is not based on it. They are based on what? A mutation. a mutation. So what are they doing to the so-called carbonated woman now? They bombarding her with constant thoughts of, instead of humanity, mutanity. They're constantly getting her to think about creating things that are not about creating a reflection of herself. They are creating a situation where she actually hates herself and hates her baby, to the point where she does not want to have and create things or babies or personages or gods or goddesses that resemble her. You have black women who have convinced themselves the only way that they can have a certain type of baby is to be with a Caucasian man, when I just read to you that she can create what type of baby she wants. There's an old thing. My eldest son's mom was Jamaican, and one day she had told me a story. One of her siblings or her had a birthmark, and I asked her, you know, how that birth, you know, where did you get was that a birthmark? Was it a scar or burn? She said, no, I did that on purpose. So what you talking about? She said, one day the father, you know, my husband didn't want to get me such and such and such, so I just put my hand on the baby and said, watch, I'm gonna give him a birthmark just because you ain't gonna do it. And the baby was born with the birthmark right here. So I'm looking at her like, wow, you did that for some jerk chicken? Like, that's horrible. In my mind. You know what I'm saying? In my mind. But at the same time, but see, this is what I mean, ego. That was a sign for me. That's Allah telling me, you better, the apple don't fall far from the tree, you know. I should have peeped it, you know what I'm saying? But the ego, right? But the ego said, no, you love her. You've been together for a long time, right? You know, everybody's a genius in hindsight, you know? The molecular evolution of a haplogroup from the Greek haplos, one-fold, is a group similar to the haplotypes which share the common ancestor having one single nucleotide polymorphism, mutation in all the haplotypes. Because of a haplogroup consists of a similar haplotypes, it is possible to predict a haplogroup from the haplotypes. This is how they know how to get you. Because they mapped your DNA, remember? They created a genome. But you know what a genome is? A clone. That's another name for a clone. So they can't deal with your DNA, so they got to create another DNA. They have what they call algorithms now that are tabulating everything that you do online. And what they're doing is creating physical representations, like how they had Tupac at Coachella. They have holographic projections in reality aspects of you that exist in an alternate little base that they run out of the place in Oslo they call the Nexus. You have duplicated copies of you. You have, each one of y'all in here got a file under the FBI building that's about 2 miles long with your whole family. But you don't know. Why? Because the only way that they can control this reality is by controlling who created the reality. You understand? If I make them believe that God is dead, then I become the God of the dead. You understand? It's give and take. When we speak of the occult, we're speaking of that which is hidden. But that which is hidden is actually in plain sight. So in that, you know, we could go all the way up. I'll tell you when to stop. You can keep going. You keep going. Okay, right here. Right? You have the arm, leg, arm, head. That's what it looked like in Hebrew. Right? But when we say Hebrew, actually what we're really saying is Canaanite or Moabite. Because everything the Hebrews got, they got from the Canaanites, who were the Moors. Sorry, y'all. It's the truth. The people who used to run the Hebrew tribes, they were called the Pahath Moab. Look it up. P-H-A-H-A-T-H. Moab. The Pahath Moab are where we get the word Pasha from. They were the original pashas of the Hebrews, meaning that we were the ones that chose who was going to be the head of each tribe, because they couldn't choose it for themselves because they was too busy out here worshiping idols and causing confusion with each other. That's why we call them the lost tribes. It's the truth. So I'm not talking about a biblical situation. I'm talking about the birth and the migration of people and nations. But I'm talking about the same people. The same way right now, we all in here deep. Right? So this means that we are in unit. But as soon as we go out into the world, we can get lost in Asia. Why? Because everybody out there, right, is everybody out there is vicariously living their higher selves through you. Right now, us all being here together, each one of us is a spiral. So that spiral is being manifested magnetically from each one of us. So imagine now if we was to look and see a spiral going from each one of us going out. We keeping people alive just by sitting in here. You understand? The truth tastes good to a belly full of lies. You know what I'm saying? So in that, when we speak of the arm, leg, arm, head, and the manifestation of the, of the Yad Ha Wad Ha, right, which is the arm, leg, arm, head, that is now manifested in what we refer to then as the Ankh. But the Ankh in the physical body is referred to as the circle or the eye of Willis. Look it up. If anybody got a phone, just look up the circle of Willis or eye of Willis. You see exactly what I'm talking about. That eye of Willis is the conduit that allows you to move back and forth through dimensions, because it regulates how the melanin translates through all the other aspects of the body. I got a book called Dark Plasma out there from back in the days. I met when I first started getting into the melanin thing, they found out that in Switzerland they was having a conference every year that's been going on since the late 60s on melanin and what they could do with it, and there's no black people at this conference. But they create reports for it and everything every year. So I got one of the books, I got one of the reports, because the dude felt bad, white guy felt bad, and then he was like, well, what could I do? I said, well, send me all the books so I could give it to the Moors and we can all get right. And he did. Because it don't make no sense if I just got it, how I just got it, and I'm not sharing it with you. Because then that means what? I'm now the target, because I'm the only one with it. But if we all got it, if we all the leaders, that means you're going to have to get rid of all of us. And they can't do that. They've been trying that since when? For as long as you can remember. Islam. So then in that, when we get into what we are as Moors now, that is, culminated beings, that's the El Hayam, right? Or the El Hayam is the El Hohim. It's the same thing. Yam meaning sea, Hay meaning the or the, and Il meaning God. In that, we see that the pineal organ, right in there, is the manifestation, exists in the basis of the brain, which helps the medulla oblongata. Big up to the God Medulla Oblongata rap CD out there. That is the manifestation of what they call the meme. The meme is the base aspect of melanin that secretes out of the medulla every night, every day. So you're reborn every day, you're replenished every day. Now imagine if you were calcified, you had a calcified pineal gland. What is spewing out of that is nothing but bile and pus. And you understand, these people don't have that. These people can't even eat food with color in it without drinking alcohol, because their body does not produce bilirubin at a sustainable rate. So they have to get the alcohol to create a synthetic bilirubin to allow themselves to intake the food with the color. And they really can't take no seasonings because of that as well. Because the bilirubin is what absorbs the spices into the blood and turns it into a nutrient. Say again? Damn. Okay. Okay, so in that, Islam. Yeah, please no audio recording. Islam. We got to respect each other, man. Let's respect the brothers. They went through a lot to get us in here. So let's just keep it real. Because if it pops up on the internet anywhere, whatever, and it's not from them, the more's going to see you. Let's go up. talk. Can we go up more? Thank you. Here we go. Okay, boom. Let's go right here. Oh, yeah, that's dope. Actually, that's cool. You can see that. Actually, you know what? We kind of built on that. Can you go up so I can see this part? Yeah, here we go. This right here, who that? No, that's the god El. That's the Canaanite god El that they base Osar on. And what is he doing? He got 5 on the left, 2 on the right, right? So that means we've been doing that for over however many million, thousands of years, whatever. That's a known thing. That was like the first, that's like the first GD sign. Like we just throwing it up, right? Then here go, this is Daf. All of what we see as the so-called Sephiroths, right, on the tree of life, that's broken between the Atziluth, Braya, and the Malkuth, the threefold reality. The biggest and the most excellent aspect of that is Daf. That exists in the solar plexus, because that is the manifestation of the all, the part of you that existed before you was physical, right? But also, this is where we get the term Darth or Darth Vader from. You understand? This is where we get the term dark from. Anything D-A-R, DARPA, right? This is where we get all of that from. Also, what they're not telling us is that each one of those Sephiroths basically represent the flow of how melanin actualizes into the world. Those are melanin molecules on there. That is a diagram of how everything manifests from the unseen plane to the seen plane, and how melanin conduits itself to do that. You don't actually have to be on beat ever, because you're automatically on it. You understand what I'm saying? You're automatically on a beat, and that beat is the heartbeat of creation that is constantly going, that we are constantly tied and connected into, right? Let's go up. Just sanguineous is the law of the bloodline, the concept of the Holy Roman Emperor civil law, blah, blah, blah. Nationals of the United States who are not citizens are entitled to consular protection, blah, 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 blah. But I put that up there because the concept that we as original people deal with is what's called just sanguineous. This is the ancient law of the blood indeed. This is taking you back now where I can go and get a picture of an Olmec head, certified copy of that from the actual museum. And because I already did a declaration of who I am, affidavit of genetic heritage, I apply that as a certification of the fact that I'm here, because that is not a stone sculpture. That's a real head that became calcified, because that's what happens when you leave carbon in the air, in the elements. What if all of those statues was actually people? Look up what a fossil is. Anything that is fossilized or calcified becomes full of stone. But anything that is calcified had to be alive first. So in that, brothers and sisters, when we talk about melanin now, this is a melanocyte. This is the hand, what they call the hand of God, that is manifested on each one of us. And each one of those hands connect together to create the richness of your skin that is so microscopic you can't see it. So you know what they did for the people that don't have it? We created amulets like the Hamza and the hand of Fatima to manifest that, so they could wear it as an amulet of spiritual protection. So what I'm saying is that the thing that actually makes you black is the hand of God itself, that is combined like this, or like a shaking hand. And when you microscopically look at all of them to the deepest degree, that's how I look. And so for those people, so because we so benevolent and we want to get people so right, because they didn't come up like we did, they are children, so we want to look out. So we create little amulets for them that they could just wear. And you know what they did? Create a whole religion out of it. And then we saying like, okay, well, okay, yeah, okay. Judaism, that's you. Then it's like, okay, Muslim, that's you. Then it's like, okay, Hinduism, that's you. You know what I'm saying? Meanwhile, we are the gods of all of those systems. It's true. You are your ancestor return. The reason why you don't think so is because your ego is in the way. It tell you that you are not great. It tell you that you're not humble. It tell you all of the stuff that's negative about you based upon how you were nurtured. Because you were not nurtured the way you were supposed to be. Even those of us that have beautiful, loving parents and all of that, they could do all of that. But once you went out into the world, what happened? You still got to deal with all of that, right? So again, we are all born into this slave colony we call an earth now. But at the same time, we have the keys to the jail. This the key right here. So when you see so-called melanated people bleaching themselves, when you see melanated people cutting their hair off and putting other type of hair on themselves, when you see melanated people trying to procreate with so many other people instead of themselves, we got to stop looking at that as a negative thing. They actually saving you and I time, because what they're doing is they're taking their disagreeableness and bringing that to a disagreeable cipher. So all of us that agree, we're now preserved because we don't have that with us no more. So each one qualifies its own self or disqualifies its own self based upon the lack or the intense understanding of knowledge. When you look at the Mississippi River, it flows in the same direction as your spine. Look it up. When we talk about the Fibonacci sequences, remember I was talking to you about the eternal spiral? That is the cheat code. This is the sign to show you that there is a benevolent intelligence behind all of this. But instead of you thinking it's some old white man in the clouds with a beard with Santa Claus making things happen, it's not like that. It's us on a higher dimension throwing stuff down to us in this dimension to raise up. Because they can't get, if right now, if you was walking down the street and you seen an ant and you was about to walk and you heard the ant say, "Don't step on me," you would be like, "Oh," right? You would what? You would try to preserve the ant, right? So I'm saying it's the same, that's an allegory to where we are as people. We are the giants. We are literally giants in this realm. That's why the pigs are so scared of you. When they come through like that, when they see you, they see all of you. You understand? When they see a baby, they see a little Asiatic boy, what they are seeing is the negation of themselves. They're seeing their extinction. Our children represent the future of our race. That means if those children get raised up to the level of God again, you know what happens? Back to the cave for them. That's all they got. All they have is this physical reality. You only here for a second. You about to go back to your real place. And like remember this like a dream. Let's go up more. Thank you, brother. Islam. Here we go. Look, you got a Moor, a Turk, and an Indian. So if this is what the Turks look like at the height of the Ottoman Empire, who are these people, these white people that's in there now? Right. You understand the people in Turkey only started wearing the fez in the 1900s. And they imported them fezzes from Tunisia and Morocco. The fez was a symbol from pre-antediluvian times of the rulers. The turban was the same thing. The turban represents the flower. The fez represents the womb. But when you wear the fez and the turban together, like what the brother has on, then what you're dealing with is the X and the Y chromosome in one. What they call the perfect man. Because you are working to balance both sides of yourself. So it's the same thing now. When we talk about the bays and the ills, we're actually talking about a super hyperphysical, metaphysical concept or metaphysical people. Because it says in the Bible, it talks about it as the Bayat Il, the house of God, the ancient place and seat of worship in Ephraim on the border of Ben-Hameen, identified with Luz, the former name. Samuel 13:2, right? Then it goes, Samuel chose him 3,000 men of Israel, whereof 2,000 were with Saul and Michmash and in Mount Bayat Il. So again, we're talking about a two-clan moiety of 7 clans in total. The Bays, the Ils, the Als, the Alis, the Pashas, the Allahs, and the Days. Let's go up. So what this basically says is that we have the right, the title nobility that we have supersedes all cultures, all religions. There's no place that you can go. Those of us that travel outside the world, when they find out you from America, they kind of trepidations on you until you open your mouth. And then when you start kicking the real game, they start to feel more comfortable to share the secrets with you. Because this is why the Caucasians market you as a Negro outside of everything, because they're going to keep you based on your ego. And the Negro and the ego is the same thing. You understand? Because the Negro is he who only grows to the knee. Somebody that's constantly broke down. You understand? Not upright. So in that, we can go up more. Anybody could get a copy of the Geneva Bible. You would definitely want to get that because all they do is talk about Moors in it. How much? See? Islam Moors. See? On it. That's right. That's right. Right there. $4,000. You understand? For a book. Can you go up? All to keep it from you. And you see it's Exodus 3:14. 3:14, that's the symbol for pi. That's the number for pi if you don't know. Okay, boom. So when we talk about the five-pointed star, that's the star of Venus, but that's also connected to Ptah. In ancient Egypt, Ptah, like Pahath, Ptah was and is the cosmic architect, cosmic shaping force, the giver of the form, the smith. Smith is not a Caucasian name. Smith is actually a Chattagee name, what they call Cherokee. There was the Cherokee. So if you were Stephen Smith Bey, you would be Stephen of the Smith Cherokees of the Moorish clan of Bey. That's how they worked together. But what the Caucasian did was came and he took the title nobility off, adopted your name, and then put you in slavery somewhere else and then adopted your estate. Easy. Easy. They do that every day in housing court. Let's go up. But look, Capricorn, actually, bring it back down a little. So when we draw it out, whenever you draw the joint out, you want to draw it from Gemini to Capricorn, from Capricorn to Leo, from Leo to Aries, from Aries, to Scorpio, and from Scorpio back to Gemini. So these are the cardinal signs. Whenever you see the Pope and he there with them red dudes with the red hats, you know what they call them? The Cardinals. But you know what their real name is? The Moors. They're called Moors. M-A-U-R-S. Okay. They just told me we got to take a break. So I guess we'll do that and then reconvene. How long is the break? Anybody? I don't know. The organizers ain't in the room, so. Islam. Okay, I'm going to go until you get rich. So you can go up a little bit more. Hold up, y'all. Okay. Islam. Islam. A long time ago, you already know talking about the Anunnakis and all. Y'all heard all of that. Zechariah Sitchin, y'all heard all of that. But what I'm trying to tell you, see them heads right there? Those is fossilized heads, which means the bodies go all the way down into the ground. But they told you that those are sculptures. Somebody went and sculpted that. You ever see the smoothness on them Olmec heads? Now look at that and then look at some of these statues they got out here. It's totally different. But again, the evidence of your empire is all around you. But if you don't got the eyes to see it, you're done. This basically just gets into the fact of what when the Nation of Islam referred to and talked about the Yaqub thing and the tribe of Shabazz and all of that, for those people that don't know that story. That, again, is a pre-Diluvian story that was told orally for generations. It manifested down to us now as the Yaqub situation. But essentially, it's the science of how the ego manifested into reality and how the mutations became the custodians of that reality. And we'll get into that after we come back from the break. Hold on a second.
Give him a hand, family. Give him a hand. Thank you, my brother. Thank you, my brother. Give him a hand. All right. So that's the first presenter for today. We're going to take a 20-minute break. Relax, enjoy yourself, go shop around with the vendors. Aseer got a lot of material in the hallway. Panic. We'll be back in 20 minutes.
Give Brother Rich another well-deserved round of applause, man. Come on, Black Magic 363. Brother Panic's auntie is in the building.
Shout out Brother Panic's sister and his aunt in the building. Give them to we have, just keep in mind, family, we have an overwhelming turnout today, which is a good thing.